Hey there, a big thank you to Shays, Chalmette, Godimig, Ian Shilvington, Corrupt, and Micah Cassell, Blaine Botiga, Psilocybin, King, Snatcho, Kashi by Coalition of Seekers, and introducing our newest renegade, Twister from a Cold Chai. If you do enjoy the content, please consider clicking that like button, subscribing, and ring that bell to help the support of content grow in further. Enjoy the show, my friends. Hey there, welcome back to Noita. I'm Sufferer of Let's Suffer Together. Back in the mountains, my friends, and today we've got an exceptional video coming your way, my friends. Stay tuned, get your favourite beverage. I am not just here by myself today. I am not even goddamn playing. This here, my friends, is Priskip, and Priskip Scream. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good. How are you?
Oh, brilliant. Again, had a really good weekend, ready to get settled in and learn something new today because we're going to be exploring some of the, not some of, just the most complicated spells in Noita that have ever graced our presence back in 1.0. They were added and no one knows what to do with them, but apart from this one man here, Priskip, who's going to be showing you some of his favourite ones today, as well as a few things about them, that, yeah, I don't know, you might learn something. So again, settle down, get set, just, chill, and, Priskip, what do you like about these spells so much?
I like them because they essentially allow you to do some programming with your wands and mess with them in such a way that you can set up conditional statements within your wand so that you can be lazy and not have to switch between two different wands to perform a single action.
So they're
It's
basically like
really,
the
really...
programming language for Noita.
Yep.
Ooh. Now, I
Yeah.
personally never actually got a handle of them because it seems a bit, even though they're kind of logic statements in a way, it feels like it, you do this, do that. The complex nature of them just kind of turns me off a little bit, but hey, again, with you showing a few of your favorite conditional ones today, telling us a little bit about them, hey, should be a good time. So,
Alright.
firstly, we need to know how to get them, and we need to know, what's the big deal?
Yep. So, in order to unlock the requirement spells, first you need to grab a tablet from Norbroom. And the easiest one to get, in my opinion, is the one here from, well, this bugger.
Easy.
Just ignore him. But there are other orb room tablets that you can go and get, like the one from the dark place over there. I don't think the pyramid orb one will work, but the one from the sand cave will work. The one from the wizard's den. Basically, any orb room orb will, or the tablet from an orb room will work.
Yeah, some of the
And once you
tablets
grab
just
that,
don't work, do they?
no, not every tablet can be reforged, which is why we're heading down to the Hisi base. So in the bottom right corner of the Hisi base, you'll find this little thing. Now here, I've grabbed the tablet that Scully was on. I throw that, it just kills the Hisi, doesn't do anything. Now I throw this one from Pit Boss's room, and it reforges, and tells you a little, statement that if you can solve the riddle, you'll get to see some of the lore of the game. But we're not interested in that. We're interested in what to do with this tablet. So, if we take this tablet to the lake, essence of fire. So here, we're at the Wicker Man in the lake, where the essence of fire is located. And if you head to the right, there's this little hut. If you throw a regular tablet at this, it'll open up a portal and it'll unlock the glimmer spells. If you take a reforged tablet and throw it in, you'll be greeted with the requirement. And they give you a little bit of a hint on how these work, as well as unlocking all the requirement spells for future runs. And you also get a tree achievement for it. So that's how you obtain the requirement spells. But how do you actually use them? Well, let's go into the spell lab.
$1 million question.
For some reason the target dummies aren't here, but that's what buttons are for. So, this wand here is actually a pretty decent way to showcase these. So, this requirement is every other. This one is otherwise, and this one is endpoint. I have every other and endpoint on this wand here. So, it has a green glimmer that goes into a spark bolt. However, this green glimmer is inside every other block. So if I fire the wand, you see the spark bolt is green. If I fire it again, it's purple. So every other cast, the spark bolt will have the green. Now I can change that to say, instead of having just every other, I can add an otherwise to it, similar to how this wand is set up. So every other, otherwise, if the requirement spell before this succeeds, the next spell is skipped. So how this works with every other is that, essentially, this first block between every other and otherwise will be cast, and then on the next cast of the wand, otherwise, it'll be cast between the otherwise and the endpoint. So I shoot once, it's green. I shoot twice, it's red. And it alternates back and forth between the two. So this one will do the same thing, except it'll either shoot the rocket or the bolt. And it'll alternate between the two. So my favorite use of every other and otherwise is, well, first off, get yourself a little bit of space here to work with. And now this one doesn't fire fast enough, but hey, that's not a problem if you have a lot of blood magic. Now it'll fire fast. Grab yourself something like a gamma to copy limited use spells. A explosive projectile modifier with a material. This will do trick damage, so you can get trick kills, and you'll be able to kill friendly creatures. A wand refresh if you like, and then a Taikasova. So now what this one will do is it's a mass Taikasova producing factory, and it does a pretty decent job of cleaning them up.
Not only Takasova, I get a lot of money from that as well.
Oh yeah, and if I had trick blood money, this would be you get the healing gold as well if you had trick blood money. I think this needs a few more blood magic since this one has really slow stats. But yeah.
So going through each of the requirement spells there, how exactly does that work?
So how this works is that on the first cast, it's going to cast a Taikasova. Then the game is going to, then after that, it completely ignores everything past this otherwise block, because that's going to get used on the next cast. And then the wand refresh is just there to keep the summon Taikasova from actually being cast, so Gamma can copy it. It's just a nice little way to top off the wand.
So what was the very first conditional doing again? Sorry.
The very first one? Oh, the very first one is setting it up so that the Gamma is going to be cast first. But then on the next cast, this one, the otherwise, takes priority and then cast the water instead of the Gamma. And that's how you get the Taikasova.
Ah, so it's another demonstration of the alternating conditional.
Yes, it just goes really fast. That's why I have the blood magic. Because the best way to kill Taikasova I've found is to have a 1-frame delay between when you spawn the Taikasova and when you use an explosive projectile material to kill it. So here, now that I've taken the blood magic off, you can see what it's exactly what it's doing. Where it summons a wand and then it explodes it on the next cast. And if I apply all the blood magic to speed it up, you get the wands.
And of course, sorry, go man.
It's probably my favorite uses for the requirements, because mass spawning Taikasovas at times can be a dangerous business. Because if these guys shoot at you, hell, I got all manner of stuff.
Well, blood magic can't kill you, but if you did have healing gold, then you've got a counter to it regardless.
Yeah, and I might as well show perks. Close this. Trick. Blood money. And there we go. You see it generates trick kills, which is nice. And then if you had something like Circle of Vigor or Healing Bolt, you can top yourself off. It's not too much to be a concern of. in the later game. But yeah, that's a really fun use for every other and otherwise. Now another fun use that you can get out of it is, say we have, where did I put it? This one. So now this one is a little bit different. This one reads every other, this stuff, otherwise projectile transmutation field. Endpoint just to cap it off. So now add trigger, if you've seen Suffer's previous video, you'll know that this is making the homing and the piercing shot free mana, while also applying the trigger to the pinpoint of light. So you're making a homing piercing trigger, which will spawn a bunch of homing Omega Saws. So if I go find the pit boss, he might polymorph me and end the video. So we'll go find the we'll go find the Alchemist. He's a little bit nicer of a dude to play. Snowcast.
It turns out a poly dude from the side gets you.
But yeah, so here's the Alchemist. If I fire this, it casts the transmutation field first because of how the requirement was on Tychosova from this previous time. The actual block of the requirement, or the count of them, will carry over. But if I wait for his shield to go down, pop this, you'll see all the Omega Saws going in after him. Come on, dude. He made all the Omega Saws his own projectile.
Yeah, he doesn't really take much damage from Omega Saws.
Well, I learned
it's
something
one
new.
that really kind of disappointed me. It's one that kind of goes low-key as well, because he makes it his own.
Yeah.
I don't know why, since Call Me makes Omega Saws his own, but he just throws them out, gets them back in, and is chewed to pieces by them. So Alchemist is a bit weird.
Yeah. Well, I learned something new.
Isn't it the slice damage?
Right then.
Or something?
It is slice.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has slice and projectile.
Ah.
But yeah, we'll just use Call Me then.
Tragic Call Me.
Call Me. Yep. But yeah. So if I fire this, wait for a little shield to go down. Or no, wait, this is Zero Orb Call Me. But yeah, there's all the Omega Saws, and they're coming in after me. Or they're gonna come in after me soon. Once Call Me. Ah! But now, on the second fire of the wand, I just cast the transmutation field, and as long as I stay inside of it, those Omega Saws can't get to me.
Ah, nice safety feature. Do you want to go through the requirement spells once more, just so that people understand it fully?
Sure. So, every other. So for the first cast of the wand, it's going to cast a homing, piercing, pinpoint of light, homing Omega Saw. Otherwise, on the second cast of the wand, projectile transmutation field. So, if I just hold down the fire button, there's the Mega Saw, and then the transmutation field comes out. So, pretty nifty little use. It's also similar to a wand that I made while in the Noitas Summit that uses a similar principle, but a slightly different setup, using a different requirement. And this one is requirement projectiles. Now this one works slightly differently. I'll explain how it works as we go to Tiny, who'll be our next target, because I need somebody that has a fair amount of health for this to actually hit. So, the first spell, requirement projectiles. The next spell is skipped if there are less than 20 projectiles nearby. So, if there are less than 20 projectiles nearby, it will not cast the spells to power Burst of Air. Otherwise, requirement otherwise, it will cast the same thing that I had down here, the homing, piercing, pinpoint of light, homing Omega Saws endpoint, to wrap off the conditional statement. So, what that means is that if there are no projectiles nearby, it's going to fire the Omega Saw portion, the otherwise block. However, if there are enough projectiles nearby, it'll cast spells to power Burst of Air. And what that will do is it'll use the projectiles that are in the area and convert them into damage. Now I should be getting close to Tiny.
He's elusive.
Yeah. Somehow I went too high and hit power plant.
Ah, that's weird. One thing I will have to say, apologies for any quality difficulties we're having during the video. We're recording this through Discord, and with my 4G internet, you know, it's one of those. I appreciate your understanding, people who are viewing this video. It's the only way we could do it, and we thank your indulgence, and I hope you're, enjoying the video. But here's Tiny.
Yeah, I went too far. I hit the power plant that's deep in the world, instead of actually hitting where Tiny is supposed to be.
Tiny will follow you, he's a fine chaser.
Yep. Yeah. Ah, there we go. Here's where I wanted to be, so I can demonstrate this. So, once he comes back, Tiny.
He'll be back.
Yeah, he could. There he is. So, fire this. All the Omega Saws. And now. Oh, he didn't live long enough. There's not enough Omega Saws. God damn it, Tiny. But what would happen if you had enough Omega Saws is that it would cast the Burst of Air afterwards. So if I just change up the wand for a demonstration, that's the quirks of doing things live.
I can just go a spell lab, can't you? Would have done it.
Just change it.
It was worth the attempt, and again, I think people understand that live setting is, in Noita, very different from any sort of practice or,
Yep.
if they've seen a Noita before, it's one of
go
those.
wrong very quickly. But yeah, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is taking forever.
I was using those pink spells
there we
today.
go.
Ah.
So this is going to cast out 10 each of these crystals, and then since that's 20 projectiles, there goes the spells to power.
So is it to disappear the saws?
Yeah,
an alternate way?
It would be to disappear. Yeah, it's a way of clearing out the saws in an alternate way.
However, that burst of air would be pretty damaging, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, that should have a fair bit of damage on it. Actually, no, because the divide by is taking off damage off the dormant crystals. I would have to put damage on these. It looks menacing, but it really isn't.
The maths of this game, and again, when I clocked the divide bys and piercing was taking damage away from the high orb colony kills, it's like a light just clicked. It's like, okay, I'm multiplying all those divide bys and piercings, and the amount of damage I'm literally losing by doing that. An otherwise spell could actually limit that overall.
Yep.
If you think about it, if you actually worked hard enough on it.
Oh yeah, and there's some fun uses for requirements in high orb boss killing as well. But I want to show you another fun use for requirement spells, and it involves the Wizard King dude up here. Let's go in the wall so you don't.
Yeah, I was about to say. Dude's
I have 4 more love, so he shouldn't be shooting me too much, but still, not gonna take the chance while I'm explaining the one. So how this one works, we got the add trigger again. Good old add trigger. It's a good thing you made the add trigger video before this one.
Yep.
So, what this one is going to do is it's going to spawn, well, first start off, requirement projectiles. Next spell skipped if there are less than 20 projectiles nearby. So it's not going to cast the explosive detonator until enough projectiles are nearby. Otherwise, if there are less than 20 projectiles nearby, you'll get the add trigger, homing, projectile area teleport, drilling shot, piercing, weakening curse explosives, lifetime increase, bubble spark, which is essentially just turns into a bubble spark trigger that will home in on the Wizard King and spawn a bunch of homing boxes on top of him. And these boxes will stack up a lot. And the reason why drilling is on here is so that the bubble spark won't be affected by the actual terrain part of the box. So you fire this wand once, it will create all these bubble spark, or it'll create a bubble spark, which will home in on the Wizard King, or any target for that matter, and just, well, completely spawn. It'll just spawn a bunch of these, and then once the has enough boxes to your liking, hey dude, like see all the boxes? Click again.
Oh!
And that takes off all the blue orbs. And the amazing part about the explosive box is it does trick damage. It's not your damage. So those, even though I have a shit ton of stainless for this demonstration, just so I don't die, even if I didn't have all that stainless, that wouldn't hurt me. I don't need ambrosia if I'm using these explosive boxes. So again, you just pile them up, detonate them.
I'll tell you what, the explosive boxes have such a beautiful explosive graphic. They're so different from everything else.
They really do. They really do. But yeah, that's got to be my favorite way to kill Wizard King. Is to just blow them up with large amounts of explosives using a requirement projectile spell to set it all up on one wand. Now, of course, you could do this with 2 wands. If you wanted to do it with 2 wands, you would just take the requirements off and then have that there. But then you'd have to have a wand refresh here, and this wand is already it's taking up a valuable spot, or it's taking up a valuable wand slot that you could be using on just 1 wand, leaving this to be another wand with another function.
Yeah, you might have come here for edit in the first place. I mean,
yeah.
Wand space is at a premium.
Yep. So that's the main use for the requirements, is to put the job of 2 wands onto 1 wand. And that's why I really like them. But yeah. Now another fun thing is, let's show off a different requirement where we have, where is it? Here it is.
Too many wands, too many wands.
Yeah, I have a lot of wands built up in this. So let's just go back up to the top of the mines. Location, mines entrance. And now I need to take off all the stainless that I have on my character for this demonstration to work. And then I will need not spells, but perks. And then a saving grace. Because touch ofs. So say you're building a touch of wand for damage, because they're cool. Or you just want to...
You just want to get rich, yeah. I could see what was going to happen
the world
there.
in the gold. Yeah. But say you're not completely crazy, and you have your saving grace, so that if you hit yourself with a touch of, you go down to 1 HP. But then if you hit yourself with another touch of, well, you're kind of screwed. And say you're firing touch ofs that fast because you want to use them either to get rich or to kill enemies, or, you know, just any sort of fun that you have with touch ofs. Well, that's where requirement low health can come in. So, this wand reads, the next spell is skipped if you have more than 25% HP left. So, if you're below 25 HP, it'll cast the first block here. Otherwise, it'll cast Spark Bolt with Trigger. That copies the Touch Gold with the Gamma. So, and then there's Slow But Steady here. So what this will do is, say I'm firing away, I get too close, I'm just holding down the fire button there. And as soon as I hit the range, or as soon as I get hit by that touch of, my wand automatically casts the Circle of Vigor with a Slow But Steady to stop the wand from firing again while I heal up from the Circle of Vigor. So it's a way you can save yourself from killing yourself with touch-ups while you are still low on stainless armor. And it's one of my absolutely favorite uses for the requirements. The amount of times, I built this wand a couple of times on stream before, and every time I do, people remark that I find a use for slow but steady.
I
Because
don't
it is
think
one
I've
of
ever
the
used it, yeah.
yeah, it's like one of those spells that you just like. Why would I want to make my wand stop? Well, here you go. Stop yourself from killing yourself with the power of requirement low health.
The great thing about saving grace as well, it gives you a third of a second iframe. So, say there was other enemies around shooting at you, you still have that kind of nice little time where, even though it's healing you instantly, say just miraculously a shot came in at the same time, you went to 1 HP, you still have that third of a second to have the heal take you from 1 HP to 2, just in case of any freak accident, which is nice.
Yep. And then the last requirement on the list. Also, warning: this is gonna be a little loud.
That's
That's my
bitchin'.
yeah.
I love
That's the
sounds
late
like
game.
that. Yeah.
That's the late game button that gives me all these perks here that I use for demonstrations. It's what I use for testing late game scenarios. But the last requirement on the list is enemies. And I gotta say, requirement enemies isn't too useful. It's hard to find a use for that one. Now, where did I have it saved? There it is. So, requirement enemies is a tough one to actually utilize. Wait, put that down.
Oh. He was curious. He's just like everybody watching right now, just investigating, understanding.
How do you...
He's here getting involved in requirements. Who'd have thunk it?
Thank goodness I have a touch of one that I can't kill myself
Forbidden knowledge.
with. Yes, he do not understand math.
Yeah.
But yeah, enemies is a tough one to actually utilize. The best thing I could think of to utilize requirement enemies is to use essence to power. So how this wand is working is we have a long distance cast to make sure that all this stuff happens away from you. Requirement enemies. Next spell is skipped if there are less than 15 enemies nearby. So, for essence to power, increase the projectile's damage based on the number of creatures nearby. So if you have something that wants nearby creatures and something that prevents it from firing if there's not enough creatures, well, pair that with other... I hear Pit Boss. Pair that with something... Yeah, pair that with something that actually creates enemies. And you might... If you guys have seen one of Suffer's older videos, you might remember this setup here, or something similar to it, that creates enemies for the perk farming one that sadly, well, doesn't work anymore.
Oh, it was a beautiful concept.
It was. I love that thing. But yeah. But you can use it in combination with requirement enemies to spawn a chainsaw on an egg with Circle of Unstable Metamorphosis. Now what Nola Expiration Trigger Shotgun is doing is it sets up 3 different cast states that don't share modifiers because I don't want to have Nola and Piercing on the egg and the chainsaw. So I spawn an egg, I hit it with a chainsaw to crack it open, and transform it into another creature. Once there are 15 creatures nearby, Essence to Power will activate, and I can start shooting. So see, now I have the Spark Bolts. But if I go away, I'm making enemies, and now I have my Essence to Power again. You know, just don't anger your own enemies, especially when they're polymorph enemies. Now, how practical is that? I'm not really sure, but you guys might be able to come up with some ideas for requirement enemies. For me, it's one of the it's my least used requirement.
Like, realistically, just saying there was no lag in Call Me, how much damage do you get from Essence to Power regardless? Could you actually actively use that in a Call Me fight to give you that extra boost? Probably, but how much? I mean, is it worth just using something else? Great concept, however, just to show the demonstration of it.
Yep. Yeah. For me, it's hard to find a use for requirement enemies. You could use it to keep your wands from firing. Say you had like something that you want to kill a large number of enemies, but you don't want to use it if you don't have that number of enemies. But usually you just want to kill everything as fast as possible. So,
Hmm.
yeah, the requirement enemies is a
Oh.
it's a tough one to find a practical use for.
Flash and
Unlike,
Friend? There's less, I don't know, there's
maybe.
less or more than 15.
Yeah.
Don't know, it's one of those that's definitely one for the comment section, no. If you have any idea, hey, let us know, we'll definitely put it to good use if you come up with a good idea, most definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, requirement enemies, that's my least used requirement out of the bunch. Like, I can get good use out of projectiles, low health, every other. Every other is the most useful in my opinion. Enemies, not so much, not so much. But yeah, and I think for one last final wand that I would like to demonstrate today is, well, let's just dump these real quick, because this one is going to need quite a bit of explaining. It utilizes a really cool nature of every other in combination with wand refresh. Yes.
Yeah, guess what that does? Anybody?
Yeah. Well, long story short, it's a damage wand. A damage wand that does a good bit of damage. So, add trigger. Makes a projectile cast another spell upon collision. When you pair add trigger with teleport cast, it makes it so that the spell that you cast will not or actually cast unless teleport cast has a valid target. So unless teleport cast can hit something, it's not going to cast because add trigger makes it do that. Then Tau, divide by 10, divide by 10, gold to power. That just creates a lot of damage on the wand. That goes into a triple spell, which is probably the most important spell on this wand, other than the requirements. The triple spell it draws 3 spells. So the first draw is the every other, which will make it so that on the first cast of the wand, it's going to cast divide by 10, circle shielding. Otherwise, all this mess. So on the first cast, we don't care about all this mess. However, that makes it go to the endpoint. Draw 3 has only drawn this requirement every other. So it looks for 2 more spells to draw. Because every other draws divide 10, which makes the circle shielding that has all the gold power on it. So, the next spell that the triple spell finds is Wand Refresh. Reloads the wand immediately. So that resets the entire cast state of the wand and actually increments the counter for every other and otherwise to work. So essentially, that's the second cast, or that's the second draw, and it still has 1 draw remaining. So it draws again, it wraps back around and finds the add trigger again, which takes the teleport cast. Tau, divide 10, gold power. Bunch of gold power. And now, because this wand refresh has gone off, and it's back in this loop again, every other thinks that the wand has already cast. So now it goes otherwise. To long distance cast, to make it so that what we cast now is no longer directly on top of the enemy, into a piercing, rotate towards foes, accelerating shot, speed up, Tau, divide 10, spells the power, divide 10 mu, to copy these modifiers, bouncing burst, so it's an accelerative bouncing burst build, and then endpoint, and then it hits the wand refresh again and immediately dies, because wand refresh immediately stops any shenanigans going on the wand once it's been drawn a second time. So, with that being said, I click once.
Oof.
And it makes its own spells to power. It makes the circle of shielding, puts the gold to power onto it, and then immediately makes the bouncing burst as well, and does about 28 to 30 trillion damage for this particular build. All in one click, without much lag at all.
I was about to say, like, Colmy would make some mulch, which would lag, but again, considering all the other builds, well, I've tried, it's mostly the projectiles combined with the mulch. So your minimization, you can always turn the particles down as well.
Yeah.
When you're fighting Colmy, so that's superb. Especially for a nice condensed wand that's reliable.
Yep.
And finds
what
the
I like
target
about it,
itself. Yeah.
yeah. Now so 30 trillion, that's about, I think it's like about a 35, 36 orb boss. So this one will do you good for doing a 34 orb run in New Game Plus 1. This one got you covered. If you want to do higher orb colmies, then sadly the requirements won't be too much of a use because you need to use more spells. You need to use more gold to power, more spells to power. You need more space. You need to do it on 2 wands there to be able to get the really, really high damage numbers with for like 61 or 64 orb colmies that have sextillions of HP. But but for something casual like this will basically kill anything in New Game Plus that isn't completely a projectile immune. But you could, well, you could take off like a divide by, or even like you could take off a divide by here or there and stick projectile weakening curse on there to kill things like Leviathan. But it's the fun idea of using a wand refresh to loop back around by drawing past the wand refresh with a multicast and activating every otherwise to be able to do 2 different things all in one cast, which is probably my my absolute favorite for the requirements.
Well, I've left the most complicated till last, but that is just, again, when you look at it, just trying to figure that one out, like, to actually figure out how to build that, it's as complex as teleporting to the other world we showed off the other day with Calresis. I get Calresis?
Caloresis.
Thank you. But again, just superb stuff, man. Again, I think I've learned something today which is astonishing. Teaching me anything, and anything is surely an achievement worthy of praise. You know? And it's been some phenomenal builds, man.
Yeah, I have fun with the requirements, and they're not. I will admit they're not the most practical things, but if you just want to condense your wands down, or like wand builds down into just one wand and save another wand slot for something else, you can get some. You can come up with some pretty imaginative and creative things with the requirements. I really, and that's what I really like about them, is just the creativity you get with them.
Well, if you just want some variety outside of a high rate of fire shooty wand that we all know and have used thousands of times, again, it just adds that nice variety to the game, which, again, now understanding, I mean, if you can teach me a little bit, surely everyone out there has learned vast amounts. So, again, you've done a great service here, Priskip, to the entire Noita community, and continue to do so, again, with not only Purgatory mod, I think you'd be okay with me putting your Discord in the description for people to download the link and to give you feedback on as well.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hoping to get 0.3 out within the week here. The Alchemist fight is starting to shape up pretty nicely, and then
beautiful.
after that I need to do Salvian. But yeah.
Say you missed out what Purgatory mod is. Priskip is in the endeavor, the big endeavor, the vast amounts of work of bringing all the bosses into a nightmare mode setting, essentially expanding what nightmare mode could have been if it had continued to been worked upon by the devs. Of course, they did a great job at the game anyway, nothing problem with that. It's just always nice to add a bit extra, and Priskip's, again, bringing what I think is going to be the next level of Noita to everybody. So again, in the description, Priskip's Discord, where you can go get the link for the betas. 2.0 recently, 0.2 recently. Is it?
Yeah,
0.2
yes. Is the current version, but 0.3 should be coming soon. Damn.
Beautiful. And Twitch, Priskip also streams live at twitch.tv/Priskip. Definitely check him out. Again, if you want an active conversation with this level of knowledge, again, your brain will expand sevenfold, mate. And you're going to come out, one, with a great atmosphere and a great dude, just, you know, chilling and vibing with some great entertainment. You know, keep him company, share your love of Noita and roguelite games, and just, you know, chill with a nice dude. Hey, big flask. I love that big flask.
I love the big flask.
A little sneak peek, I think.
Yep, a little sneak peek of what I've been doing for the Alchemist in Purgatory. Ow!
Backflip, triple backflip.
But yeah, he's deadly. He'll get you.
Oh, it's been great, though, mate. Again, big thank yous to yourself for putting in the effort and, you know, contributing to Noita in the way you do, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's a fun coding project to mess around with things in this game.
Indeed.
But
But
yeah,
for anybody who, yeah, for anybody who,
uh,
fancies clicking that like button, subscribing to this channel, do so, It's always very helpful for the algorithm and shit, And, hey, you'll get more Noita content, more roguelite content, and you'll go down a rabbit hole, which, again, you'll meet great people like myself, and Priskip, and a load of other great people in the Noita community. I always find a way to low-key big myself up sometimes. It's great. I enjoy it. But again, I also stream along with Priskip at twitch.tv/Let's Stuff Together /Priskip. Make sure you join those channels, clicking those follow buttons, and supporting some good stuff. Again,
mhm.
it's always a pleasure to have you, Priskip. And
Yeah,
hey,
it's always a pleasure to show off some one builds.
I'm sure people. I think this is probably one of the most kind of entertaining videos I've done not in a long while, but you know what I mean? Just in terms of actual things I've learned, because a lot of the times it's information I've already known about, and I'm just, facilitating and spreading, or, actually learning something. Wow, man, that's incredible. And I don't think anyone else could have done it.
Yeah,
I hope
very
everyone
few.
else feel the same, and
Very
I'm sure
few.
they will. I'm sure everyone else will feel the same. Again, brains have been expanded. We'll catch you all either in the next video or next streams. But until later, hey, take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll catch up with you soon. See you later, renegades.
Bye!